everyone. Welcome to Ex Post Watcho. My name is Jason, and I am joined by my friend
Ilana.
Hi, Ilana. How you doing?
I'm great. How are you? I like the drama in the podcast title.
Yeah, I'm really trying to build it up and
It was great.
Get excited, people. As you know, on this show, we watch older movies and then we talk about them. It's a great formula, and we plan on continuing. And this week, I don't know why I'm setting it up this way. Look, this week we're gonna watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Classic.
A classic movie. This is a Disney movie, which means I probably will have to pirate it because I don't pay for the Disney thing. Although I might actually have this on VHS tape. That's entirely possible because I do have
You have a VHS player?
I do. So I like to buy VHS tapes at Value Village. And I have a pretty decent collection going now because they're dirt cheap. Like, here's a tip.
Yeah.
If you want to, look, eventually all this internet stuff, it's going away. It's not going to be here forever. The streaming services, even if you're not a complete pessimist, they do take content down regularly. So I do encourage people to start prepping and consider that all of this media, might not be easily available to you one day. So it's not a bad idea to have, DVDs and stuff like that. They even though streaming kind of destroyed all of that, they can be very useful to keep around. And I got into the habit of buying VHS tapes just because they're dirt cheap. And I have a little makeshift gym in my basement, and I have a little TV in there with a VHS player in it. So I'll go in the basement and lift weights and watch The Matrix on VHS tape.
Take it from Uncle Jason, kids.
Yeah. Build your bunker, put a VCR in there, and watch some old movies.
Yeah, I mean, you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and you don't want to find yourself bored and
Without
thinking,
movies.
I want to watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I have no way of doing it because Disney Plus has ceased to exist.
I don't want to think about a world where I can't watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids when I want to watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
I want to watch it every day, and no one can stop me.
While you're pumping iron.
Exactly. It's very inspiring. So anyway, I saw this movie. I remember really liking this as a kid. I think because, again, a theme of the show, I think, is figuring out why my brain works the way it does. And I have always been kind of fascinated by miniaturization of things, smaller versions of things, which actually, you know what? That doesn't make any sense. This is the opposite of that. This is small people, so everything is really big. But anyway, that's a cool concept. I really liked it. So I definitely saw this movie a bunch of times when I was a kid, but I haven't seen it in probably 20 years at this point.
I just want to say, Jason, you had a Red Bull not that long ago, and just a few moments ago you said, I don't think this is kicked in yet, but I think it has.
Look, I'm just really excited to see those kids get shrunk.
I remember really loving this movie, too. I can't really remember much about it. Rick Moranis is in it, though, right?
Yeah. He's the only name I recognize in it.
Yeah. I also remember an aunt, but I feel like that might be Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, too.
Oh, yeah.
How many sequels were there?
Yeah, there was Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and then Honey, I Blew Up the Kid. That was the one with the giant baby. And then...
There were a lot of giant baby movies back in the day.
Giant babies, talking babies, babies left unattended in cities for a big day out.
Yeah, oh yeah. All right, sorry, continue. I'm sorry I interrupted
This
you.
is the decade of latchkey kids and negligent parents. Maybe that is the subtext to all of this, is just pay attention to your children. Don't accidentally shrink them.
You idiot. You jerk.
That won't feel good.
Yeah.
Better learn a lesson from that. And then in the third one, they shrink themselves. And apparently there's one I see here on Wikipedia called Shrunk, which is a new one they're going to do. Because of course we gotta revive this.
I'm gonna just throw this out here. I bet that Shrunk the special effects are gonna suck compared to the original.
Probably, yeah. There's gonna be a lot of CGI.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any CGI in this. I remember the laser looked cool, the shrinking laser. I was like, I want one of those.
So maybe there is an ant in this one then.
I think there is, yeah, because they get they get shrunk, and then they end up having to go on an adventure in the yard. And I do remember there being an ant they become friends with. That's
and get unshrunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Do they become friends with the ant? I recall the ant being like
malignant.
Malignant?
Malignant.
Yeah, I don't think he was their friend, but you know what? The only thing I can really remember about this movie is the ant. So I don't know. I don't really know what I'm talking about. I'm so excited to just be entertained by this movie. I predict that I'm going to be very entertained. I predict a lot of belly laughs.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I think this will be hopefully a fun one.
Yeah, I feel like they just don't make movies like this anymore, and maybe it's because I don't have kids, so I don't watch a lot of kids or family movies. But
all right. Well, anyway, I'm gonna go to my basement. It's cool down there, and I'm gonna go watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
All right. Enjoy your workout and your viewing, and I will enjoy probably, I don't know, eating a bag of Cheetos and watching this.
Yeah, I might just do that too.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, we'll be back after watching Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Bye.
All right, everybody, we're back after watching Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Alana, what did you make of this movie?
I had a fucking blast watching this movie. It was even better than I remembered it. What about you?
Yeah, this was definitely, I know I saw this when I was a kid a bunch of times, but my memory of it had pretty much like entirely disappeared other than a few bits and pieces. But this was one where like things were coming back to me like as it went along. And yeah, it holds up. It's a good movie. It's a tight 90 minutes, but there's lots of action, lots of comedy, lots of stuff going on there. Yeah, definitely. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I wrote wholesome mischief. I feel like summed it up for me, which I really love about these movies that were made kind of in the 80s and the early 90s, these family movies.
Yeah, that was a detail that stood out to me as well, I guess, was like it does have a very like kind of positive vibe going. Like you could imagine this movie being made today, which I guess they are making some kind of thing for it, and it's going to be terrible. But it would be very like serious. Like there would be like details about the family and the kids that would be like, you know, this is an adult thing. But yeah, no, it's just very very wholesome and fun. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it starts off strong with that animated sequence. I had completely forgotten about that. I didn't remember that was a thing at all. And that came back to me right away. And I was like, oh shit, yeah, the cartoon part.
I didn't remember it at all, but I loved it.
Yeah, it really, like, it's a great little, like, opener that sets the tone for the movie, both in terms of, like, you know, it's got the music going, and it kind of gives you like, it opens with a sequence of like, you know, a bunch of kids who have been shrunk and they're being attacked by everyday objects, and some of those show up in the movie, but I think most of them don't. But they do some neat things. Like I like the way the record player arm was made to look like a snake, kind of menacing.
Yeah, I loved them, and I especially really was enjoying the score, and then I was like, who did this? So I looked it up, and it was James Horner. Apparently there was a big controversy over this score because he was accused of stealing bits from other composers, and like he was sued by several people. I didn't go too deep down that hole, but that's too bad because this score really kicked this movie up a notch too.
So I remember this movie being about the kids, and you know, certainly Rick Moranis being a part of it, but there was a bunch of characters that I didn't really remember, which were like the neighbors next door and stuff like that. And I think that's something you mentioned as well.
I didn't remember them at all, but I loved the neighbor, the dad.
Yeah. So that's Matt Frewer, who is I guess Canadian/American actor. He is famous for playing Max Headroom, who is this character in the 80s who was like a computer created character, but it was just like him with a lot of like makeup to make his head kind of square and like fancy backgrounds. And it was a big pop culture thing. I think it was a bit before our times. Like I heard about it as an adult. But yeah, I didn't know he was in this, and then I saw it and I was like, oh shit, it's Matt Frewer, and he definitely like is a big character in the movie. Like he gets a lot to do, and you know, crack wise.
He made me laugh a lot. Like when he was weightlifting, or when his wife was like catching him smoking a cigarette and he just like dropped the cigarette, like all those little moments.
Yeah.
And I think like one of the last lines of the movie too, it's kind of this throwaway. They don't spend any time on it, but he's talking to his kid Russ, and there's that giant turkey on the table, and he's like, I wonder what's for dinner, right, Russ? Just like, there's so many great lines in this movie too, and it just was a nice cap to the whole thing. Yeah, I didn't remember him at all. And his wife was played by the lady who played Buffy the Vampire Slayer's mom in the TV series.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I was like, where's that lady from?
She looked familiar. I've never seen Buffy, but she did look familiar. I don't know if I've seen her in anything else.
She was great too. And Rick Moranis. He's one of my, I think he's so great. His physical comedy in this killed me.
Yeah, he definitely does a lot of like goofy reactions to things and emotes a lot in fun ways.
Yeah. I also don't really remember, I kind of remember that love story with the teenagers, and I actually thought it was usually, I'm like, whatever, who cares? But I actually kind of liked this one. It was kind of sweet.
Yeah, what did you think of the kids?
Okay, I loved the little nerdy Nick, Rick Moranis' son, who was just like a carbon copy. I thought he was really funny. The teenage girl, Amy, I wasn't sure at first, but she grew on me. And then, the neighbor kid, Kate's Russ, is the teenage boy. He was great. Poor Russ. His dad's so disappointed in him because he doesn't want to play football. And then his younger brother, Ron, who was so annoying, who's the reason they are shrunk, puts the baseball through the window and it hits the machine, the invention, that the shrinking machine. Does it have a name?
I bet you as the franchise went on, they probably gave it one. But in this one, it's just the laser thing, which looks cool as hell. I think that laser looked dope.
I think all the little gadgets looked great. That was such a thing of the time, too, I think.
Yeah, that was something that like, as the movie was going on, like there's all these little shots of like, the dog gets its dog treat by like hitting a lever and like 7 contraptions are involved to get its treat or whatever. And that to me, like that feels like an 80s, 90s thing that you would see a lot of. That kind of died. And I don't know if that's because like technology has gotten to the point where like you don't need these kind of contraptions to do a lot of the stuff that was going on. Like the thing that like answered the phone automatically for why? I don't even know why that existed.
Yeah.
Sorry. Going back to the kids, the characters for a second. Yeah. So like, I kind of felt the same way. Like you've got Nick, who is Rick Moranis' son, who like I remember like as soon as I saw him, I'm like, okay, nerdy kid, he's going to be like Rick Moranis, but he's got his own personality. He's not just like a quiet like introverted kid. Like he's kind of he's got some spice to him. He'll throw some zingers at you. If you're the annoying kid next door. And the younger kid next door was super annoying at first. Like he's, clearly introduced that way where he's just like kind of obnoxious, just always giving people, shit and stuff like that. But by the end, they all go on this journey together and learn things and he kind of becomes a decent person. And then the older teens are, like I think the daughter, Amy, kind of to a degree didn't get as much to work with or like wasn't quite as fleshed out. They do kind of tell you some of the details about her sort of like explicitly through dialogue.
She talked about going to the mall a lot, which was also a thing of the times, like going to the mall. And even her mom's like, where's Amy? Well, she's probably at the mall. That stuck out big time for me. Yeah.
Yeah, her big mission is to get to the mall so she can go on her date or whatever.
Stakes are high.
Yeah. Yeah, and in the 80s, that is how life worked.
Yeah. I mean, it was a big deal to go out with your friends when you're younger. I remember crying hysterically because I could not go see Beethoven 2 or Beethoven the Second with my friends to the movie theater when I was a young preteen. It's a hard time.
Why weren't you allowed to go?
I don't know. Probably my mom was like, that's not going to be good and we don't have any extra money and then I'm going to have to drive you there and I have 2 young children at home, younger than you, that I have to take care of, and my dad was out of town. Should I tell you all about my childhood?
See, at least those are like kind of legitimate excuses.
Well, she wasn't just like a bitch. She was like
Well, I'm thinking of when I was a kid, I wanted to go see like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter when those movies came out, and like my parents just wouldn't let me because they're too adult for you, which if you've seen those movies as an adult is hilarious because they're like cartoons. They're ridiculous.
But the times have changed also. Maybe those were shocking.
Maybe, yeah. They were just the most violent things ever. They were like, Mortal Kombat's like a big Power Rangers episode. It's not. Yeah.
Ew. I've not seen it. Speaking of parents, in this movie, at the beginning, they set it up where they're like, oh, our dad's this mad scientist and mom and dad were fighting again and mom's staying, she's staying overnight. I can't remember where, someplace.
Like her sisters or something like that?
Yeah. And then she calls him because he's got a big presentation to make and she's like, good luck, honey. And he's like, thanks. And then she just comes home and shit's cool again. And that was kind of a weird setup. I was expecting there to be more tension there, but they were kind of a great team that worked together to solve the problem. So that kind of was weird.
I was confused by that because when that opening scene happened, like Amy, the daughter, is on the phone and, she says like, oh, mom and dad had a fight and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, okay, this is late 80s, this is the era of like divorces are really a thing. And there was a lot of movies around that time that were, had divorced parents and stuff like that. So I'm like, this is falling into that theme. And as the movie progresses, like their first interaction with each other is like she calls and then he gets on the phone and it's like, she's super friendly and supportive. And I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. Like this doesn't make any sense. And like, as the movie goes on, like they do have like a very like normal, healthy relationship, even in this time of crisis. And they do kind of like, touch on like the problems they've been having. It seems like they're both just really busy. Like that seems to be the issue. He's too busy doing science and she's too busy selling houses.
And the kids are messy.
Yeah. Okay.
There were a couple of inconsistencies. Also with the teenagers, they really set Russ, the older son of the neighbors, up to be like kind of a not really interested in sports, maybe not very popular, kind of a more sensitive kid. And then the mom, Amy's mom, when they find out like the kids are all shrunk up already and they know they're out there someplace, she's like, I'm like, okay, they're not even that worried that their children are shrunk and in the yard. But she's like, I'm just worried about her being with Russ, whatever, all night. And it's like, what? Why? Your daughter is the one who sounds like a little bit like she's ready and raring to go. And this kid is a little bit shy. And then they cut immediately to a scene between the teenagers. And she's like, why haven't you come over? And he's just like, well, you're too popular. Like, well, okay. And then they go at it with a kiss. Like,
they don't go at it.
They don't, it's not like a peck, like a sweet teenage like movie kiss. They like had full open mouths. And maybe they were nervous, or maybe they were just into it.
Or maybe they're like, we're going to die. We just saw, giant bees coming to kill us. That would be my pitch if I were us. I'd be like, look, we might not have much time left. So,
yeah. Well, he did save her life. He's already, I think, got it in the bag. I don't.
Looking at it transactionally.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was weird too. She was like, "I'm worried about that guy."
Yeah, no, that line, that did stand out to me because like I was trying to figure out his character for a while, and it seems like he, the dad character, his thing is like he's the dad, and he's really into being a dad and dad things. So like he wants to go fishing and he wants him to play football and be really good at it, and he's not into that. And so like I think his character, actually I kind of identify with that in a sense where he's just like, I don't know what my thing is, I'm just a teenager and I'm just doing whatever. But then that line kind of made no sense in context because it's like, he's a real horn dog. It's like I don't know if he is.
Yeah, there was nothing to really set that up for Russ. So yeah, there were a few moments that were a little weird. I wonder how many deleted scenes there are in this.
Oh yeah,
that might explain some of this. But I'm glad they were cut. I thought the pacing of this was actually perfect too. Like I was so, except for that first 7 minutes of the movie, there were so many things happening and I loved all of them. I couldn't even keep up with my notes. I was like, all of this is just exactly what I want it to be. It was so fun. But I think that the whole pacing of the film was great. So if there are deleted scenes out there, I want to see them, but I don't. I'm glad they were cut. But they should have cut those stupid lines out that they didn't make any sense.
Yeah. And you brought up something that I noticed as well, which was like the worry level of the parents, which like, if you look at it as like this is a missing children story, like if your two kids are missing and your next door neighbor's two kids are missing just out of nowhere at the same time, like, this is pre-cell phone, so like, yeah, maybe they're at the mall, okay, but then like, they kind of realize that that's not the case, and it's pretty freaky. Then eventually the Selinskys figure out, oops, they've been shrunk, so they're getting into hijinks in the backyard trying to find them. That stuff was a lot of fun. But like they really do kind of like show a level of worry that doesn't quite match the situation. They're like, because he says like, oh, they're fine in their backyard with the neighbors next door. It'll be okay. Go to bed. Yeah. And then like later on the next morning, they're like, they look for them for a bit, and then they take a break to like, we got to eat breakfast. We got to get some cereal. Like you can't. It's the most important meal of the day. And then that actually is like where the kids show up. Because plot. I was kind of like intrigued by that. I mean, it is a kids movie, so they don't want to be like, you don't want like just someone bawling, losing their mind, binge drinking because they're terrified their kids have been murdered or something.
Yeah. Yeah, it was very wholesome and very light. And then, the cereal, I remember that scene so well now that I think the VHS cover or the poster or something had that dog's nose on the table with the kids jumping off.
Yeah.
The hero, one of the heroes, the dog.
Yeah.
Dogs rule, cats drool.
Bullshit movie. Yeah, the cat is introduced just to be a villain. Just no character development, nothing. Don't get to learn about the cat. Just the cat is bad. The cat is the enemy.
Yeah. Well, as we know,
also,
cats are... The cat wouldn't have saved the day. The cat doesn't give a fuck about those kids.
That's true. I'm thinking... Yeah, no, my cats would have just like... I've seen my cats like play with mice and stuff like that, and it's pretty upsetting to watch. They are psychopathic murderers.
I read... There's like a meme or something going around, and it's like, you don't hate cats, you're just can't handle rejection. And I felt like that really did... I was like, oh... Maybe that's true. Maybe meanwhile, you have like an actual cat on your shirt, I think.
Yeah, kind of. It's like a tiger thing.
Yeah, that's a cat.
Technically speaking.
Anyway, speaking of animals, okay, the ant, I have to issue an apology. I thought the ant was a villain. I remember the ant as a villain. The ant was one of the heroes of this tale. Saves little... shit ass, whatever his name was, Ron, a child named Ron.
I mean, all Rons started off as children at some point.
I know, but it's so weird to hear Ron.
Do you think was the case even when this movie came out? Was Ron like
No.
a dated name?
Well, do you know any Rons? I know a lot of Nicks and Amy's. I don't know a lot of Russes or Rons.
I encountered a few Russes that were a little bit older than me, so that one checks out. But Ron, that one makes no sense.
There's Ron Weasley, though, in Harry Potter.
But that's in England. And that's
Maybe they're English, of
not
English
real.
heritage. Yeah, so the ant...
The ant
the
is
day.
introduced kind of as like a scary thing at first, because...
No, okay, I disagree. Sorry, I cut you off. I got very passionate about it, and I just went in.
Well, no, I was just going to say, like, when they first encounter the ant, like, they are like, oh, God, it's a giant, terrifying... Like, they are scared of it. They quickly do befriend it, but...
They abuse the ant. They, like, assault the ant at first. They're like, we're going to fucking make this ant our bitch. And they, like, hop on the ant, and the little kid is riding the ant. And then the woman, the young woman, she's like, here, little ant. Here, have some of this cookie we found in the yard. And then they befriend him. But at first, they just kind of... the ant's just kind of, like, kicking it. And then they just attack him. Or her. I'm not sure what the ant's sex was. Worker ants. Are those like worker bees? Like, are they all dudes?
I have no idea. There's a lot about ants I don't know. I'm sure we could spend an hour on Wikipedia learning about ants or bees.
True. But I felt bad that I thought the ant was a dick, and he turned out to be a really honorable little dude.
He
And
gets subjugated by a bunch of teenagers.
Yeah. I cried when the ant died.
That was actually like pretty... I almost kind of wonder why, I guess like maybe they didn't need the ant for the entire plot. So at some point the ant has to go. But like, the ant gets in a fight with... They get attacked by a scorpion, which is very confusing. Like, I don't know a ton, but I don't know where this movie is set in America. It's in America somewhere. And
Right.
I know there are parts of America where there are scorpions, I think. Like,
Maybe they're in California. I'm sure there must be scorpions in California.
In your backyard? Like, just walking in your grass?
I don't know. When I was in Italy, there were scorpions like everywhere.
Really?
Yeah. Well,
my
where
God.
we stayed, we were like in Tuscany, and there were scorpions like in our... She was like, make sure you knock your shoes out in the morning before you put your like work boots on. And we were walking up. I was one of the first to arrive in this place that we were staying, and I was walking up the stairs, and the first thing I saw was a little scorpion. I thought it was a spider, and I freaked out. And then she's like, oh, that's a scorpion.
You're like, oh,
And
you're cool.
it was less scary to me
Really?
than a spider. Yeah. Anyway. Sorry. The scorpion attacks. We don't know where they are. It did sort of raise a question of, where do scorpions really exist?
Yeah, and then you get this whole like fight scene between the ant and the scorpion in glorious stop motion animation. And you know what? It still looks good as far as I'm
I
concerned.
thought all the effects in this looked pretty decent. I prefer all of these to like, I don't like CGI kind of. I think it rarely looks good.
Yeah, it usually looks bad and unreal. Like, I think the thing with CGI is it tends to look like... It just doesn't look like it's actually there, whereas when you have practical effects, which this movie had a ton of them, like visually this movie is really good. And I think it does hold up in a lot of ways. Like when they first get shrunk and they're in the attic, as soon as they get shrunk, you see them and they're on the floor, and the floor is like you can tell they had to build some kind of like fake giant size floor set for them to walk on, and it kind of gives it some realism, or like when they get caught up in the broom and stuff like that. Yeah, all that stuff looked good. I was surprised at how gross this movie is, and I think that was like definitely something I remember from back in the day that I just forgot. But there's just like so much of those effects and the shrunken stuff is like gross, and sometimes it's deliberately gross. So like there's a scene where there's like a puddle of water and that dead bug like floats through. But then there's also like just kind of everything is gross. Like the way the leaves look, or the blades of grass and stuff like that. Like they have this like organic kind of texture that just looks gnarly and like.
Oh, it upset you.
Yeah, and when Nick falls into the flower with the pollen in it, and it's like these big chunky yellow pollen things, like that just viscerally looks disgusting to me. Like
I thought it looked so cool. After Russ saves Nick from the pollen from the bee, and they're like, they stand up and they're brushing themselves off, and they have all these really cute little, it just looks like they have pom-poms sewed onto their costumes, like onto their clothing. I thought it was cute. You were upset by it.
I mean, I wasn't upset. I wasn't like mad at the movie, but I just like the texture of it, like, it disgusted me.
I do remember the scene where like she falls into the little puddle.
And that
Russ saves
so
her,
gross.
and he gives her CPR, and she's like coughing up like the dirty water. That I agree. That was disgusting. I did not like that.
But like even the bee, like when the bee comes and they grab onto it and they go flying around, like the bee just looks so gross. Like I don't know what a bee zoomed in on that much looks like. Probably also pretty gross. But just like all that kind of combined, it all just like, or even the broom actually, like the shot where they get swept up into the broom and they're like grabbing the bristles, like those bristles look gross. Everything's gross.
Oh, do you have like a weird texture thing?
Maybe I do. Yeah, maybe I don't think I do, but whatever is going on in this movie clearly triggers some part of my.
I think you do. Yeah.
My brain.
We're gonna learn a lot about ourselves and each other with this podcast.
Yeah. What weird specific details about movies upset us?
Yeah. Yeah. You were talking. Oh, okay. So you were talking about when the dead bug flows by in the little lake. That was one of my favorite moments. I love like the little insults that the kids throw at each other. They got a little bit much though. So when the dead bug floated by, I think it was Ron was like, "Oh, Amy, your date's here," which made me laugh. It's such like, again, an 80s, 90s kind of sibling or neighborhood kind of back and forth. And then, okay, something that Russ said. Russ seemed very sweet. And then he kind of threw out a few zingers at his brother. I will never not, this will never not be my automatic go-to instead of telling people to shut up. He said, "Blow it out your shorts, Ron." And I laughed. I had to stop the movie because I was hysterical because that's such an 80s thing to say to somebody. I've never heard it before, and you will never not hear me say that probably every conversation we have till this friendship dissolves.
You're just taking that line and just sticking it in your pocket for whenever you need it.
Ready to go. But yeah, then Ron, the little jerk, he told Amy, "I hope your face ends up on a milk carton," which, like, for people who don't remember that time of like missing children's faces being on milk cartons, like that's pretty intense.
It's a pretty dark line, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, this is such a sweet film, and then they threw that in there, and also she's missing, and the parents don't know, I think, at that point. And I was like, oh, yikes.
You're all going to end up on a milk carton. And the delivery of that line is really good, too. Like, the way he says it is like, "Hope your face ends up on a milk carton."
Anyway, there were some great lines in this movie.
Yeah, so there's just a lot of like kind of action-packed scenes in this movie. So like there's the whole like bee encounter, and then the scorpion thing, and then there's like the lawnmower of death, which was cool as hell. That lawnmower looks awesome, and I want one.
I like the organ music that came in when the neighborhood kid came to mow the lawn.
Yeah, and like that part was just great because like. I didn't actually notice the music. I read your notes, and I was actually scrubbing through the movie again just before we started doing this. And yeah, that musical cue like is just perfect because it's so like sinister. And then you know he's operating this remote control mower in a completely goofy fashion. Like he's not committed to mowing the lawn in any sort of efficient way. You don't just go in circles. You know, he's treating it like a game, not the serious task that it is, which is a little upsetting. But But, you know, like he's got the headphones on and he's not paying attention and they're screaming at him. And like, yeah, there's a lot of tension in a lawnmower scene.
There was a lot of yelling in general in this movie. Just every couple of minutes, someone is losing their mind. But it wasn't annoying. It was just kind of, it was funny. I laughed out loud a lot. Even just the kids I thought were so great. Like even just they'd yell at something very basic and it worked. It was very kind of charming and funny, I thought.
Yeah, I agree with that. It was like everybody in this movie, I think, does their job really well. All the actors and characters, you know, like the kids have a certain amount of chemistry that, like, at the beginning, I don't know, I was like, oh, this is going to be kind of annoying. But you know, by the end, I had warmed up to all of them and liked them. Mm-hmm. I liked, okay, some goofy plot details that I thought were kind of funny. So like towards the end of the movie, they tell the neighbors, hey, we shrunk all the kids and stuff. And then they find the kids and then they are going to like get them back into large size. And he does a test where he tries to like shrink and blow up an apple first and it explodes. And he's like, oh, then he figures out, oh, it's the baseball. We just got to take the baseball and put the baseball in. And then like, as soon as he makes that discovery, the neighbor dad is like, all right, shrink me now. Dude, just shrink me. It's like, you don't just get another apple, do an apple test first. Like I personally, I would not jump immediately into getting shrunk by the scary, unproven machine.
Yeah, there was a weird moment between the neighbors, the husband and wife, where he gets back to his regular size and she's like touching him. She's like, you're so brave. Are you okay? Like, it was a real moment for them.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
he kind of redeemed himself a little bit though, because he was not a horrible, like abusive father, but he was not a great dad. He was like hyper dad mode. And then he kind of chilled a little bit and did something very heroic for the kids. Could have been an apple, but good old, I don't even know what his name was. Did he have a name? Neighbor guy?
Oh, his name is also Russell. The kid is Russ Jr.
Oh no, that sucks extra a lot for him.
He's like,
wow.
Yeah,
Pressure.
he's a dad that's like projecting all of his like things that he wants out of life onto his older kid. And it's funny because the younger kid seems like totally on board with all his dad stuff. Like the older kid doesn't want to go fishing. The younger kid's like, yeah, we're going fishing. He's got a fishing vest the whole movie. So like, I don't know. I don't have kids, so I don't know how any of this works. But at that point, I'd just be like, all right, older one, lost cause. He's going to get into glam rock or whatever his thing is. And I mean, he's going to be an arty kid. That's what he's going to do. If he's...
You're describing exactly my family dynamic. I mean, I'm not in glam rock, but you know, continue.
Yeah. I'm an only child. So my parents were just like, well, this is it. This is what we got. Okay. Just give him a Nintendo and leave him alone. What was I going to say? Also when he gets, so, you know, that's kind of his whole thing is he's just like super dad who wants to do the dad things and kind of wants his son to like do the things that I guess, I don't know if he was a star football player as a kid or if he wasn't and he wants his son to be, but that's kind of his whole thing. But he's not like abusive, you know. He's
just kind of a like hyper, he's just the most ultimate 80s dad, I think.
The scene where his buddy shows up and they're supposed to go camping together. I love that scene so much. It's so funny. Just the stupid, like they do this stupid thing where like he pulls up in his camper and then like the one guy pretends to fish and then he does this like hand wavy thing and they like bump into each other. It's beautiful. And then
their parting moment.
And then they kind of play that out at the end but it's sad. Also, very alpha move. His children are missing, and he just tells his friend his wife is having lady issues.
The plumbing.
The plumbing. I don't know what plumbing is supposed to mean exactly, but...
plumbing usually means butt problems, no?
I don't know. Is that what he's implying?
I'm going to start using that, too. I'm going to blow it out your shorts, and I'm going to start using the words plumbing. Those are kind of a related...
Yeah, I mean, you have plumbing problems. You might blow it out your shorts unexpectedly.
Yeah.
I think it's
This
the
is
word.
where these kids are picking up these nasty habits in the home. It starts in the home. Actually, there was a scene at the beginning where like the neighbor dad was trying to get the older son to do something with him. And the kid was like, I don't know, Dad, I'm just not into it. And the younger kid's like, fucking yeah, Dad, like, let's fucking do it. And the dad's like, anyway. And then the younger kid immediately looks over the fence and starts picking on nerdy Nick. So there were some real messages in this film.
There was some darkness there. I was going to say the blow it out your shorts thing. It's the word shorts. I think it's the word shorts that makes it distinctly 80s.
And blow it out your short. Remember, gag me with a spoon. So fucking stupid. You don't remember that?
I mean, I've heard it, but I couldn't pinpoint when it was a thing.
Yeah, I think that was a very 80s kind of thing.
I don't even know how that works. Well, yeah, I don't know if I really have anything else to say. Were there any other like scenes or moments that stood out to you that
I don't think so. I just loved this a lot. I think everyone should watch this. Whether you've seen it before, whether you've never seen it. I think if you have kids, you should watch it with your kids. It's, I think, totally appropriate for everybody, and it's legitimately very entertaining and very funny.
Yeah, I agree with that. It is. It was a very entertaining movie. Again, a tight 90 minutes, which I appreciate. But it certainly holds up in a lot of ways. And whenever this thing called Shrunk comes out, because of course it's going to be really bad. I was looking at the list of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV show episodes that came out in the late 90s. I guess they made 66 episodes of a TV show based on the family. It's different actors, of course. Mm-hmm. You know what? They don't get shrunk, like, almost none of the time.
What?
Yeah, so, like, episode 3, Honey, I'm Haunted. Wayne invents something that could make your vision so perfect, so Nick tries it out and can see practically everything, even dead people. He befriends a friendly ghost who gets into Wayne's body, and Nick realizes that the ghost isn't all that good. So he, along with Wayne, attempt to get control of his body so they can get the ghost out. Which, I'll be honest...
There's an exorcism. That's an...
Yeah, this might actually be good. Wayne's invention succeeds in finding gold, a pot of doubloons claimed by a leprechaun who puts a curse on the Selinskis until they hand it over.
No, I'm going to watch this for sure.
Yeah, I got to find this. This looks great. Well, I mean, we can't go so far to recommend the TV show because we haven't seen it, although...
I mean...
Sounding pretty good from what we're seeing here. But go watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And
if you haven't already.
If you haven't, I mean, if you already have.
Watch it again.
Yeah.
Buy it.
And if you don't want to, you can blow it out your shorts. Bye for this week. We'll be back next week. And we're going to watch Encino Man.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy.
All right. Have a good week, everybody.